Mike Posner.
He's climbed Mount Everest, walked across America. He's a platinum-selling artist.
One of the ways I'm blessed to be able to transmute my pain is to make art. Hey, how can I set my life up to where it's inspiring to me?
I want to get to this walking across America.
Let's go. I was about 2/3 of the way through the walk. I heard a sound that I didn't want to hear. That experience for me was so visceral and in some ways so traumatic because death was so close. I want to be the guy that climbed Mount Everest. My body's falling apart. People are dying. The only thing I had left was the integrity. I often go to this place in Colorado, and they offer a unique experience, which is a solitary retreat.
What was it like to come back to civilization?
I took a pill in Ibiza.
Yeah?
What was the pill?
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to join Mike Posner and the Retirement House for 5 seconds of silence so that we can be present here together. Let us begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Retirement House podcast.
The only podcast with over 450 years of wisdom and expertise. Our guest this week is less than half our age, but wise beyond his years. I think we're going to be learning a lot from one another.
He's climbed Mount Everest, walked across America. He's a platinum-selling artist with hits like I Took a Pill in Ibiza, Please Don't Go. And that's just the start of it.
We have so much that we would like to go over with him today. So please help us in welcoming
Mike Posner.
Thank you.
And Mike, I'm going to start with a really big question.
Okay.
What is your mission?
Wow, that's beautiful. Just a softball to get us started.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here and just to see the spirit in all of your eyes. Everyone here is kind of glowing. So I don't know whether to
reflection, man.
be scared or excited.
A couple ounces of booze and...
How about a little of both?
No, but seriously, thank you. My mission, Mike Posner, I see, hear, feel, and know my purpose is to give love. My purpose is to be a kind artist who creates transcendence for myself and many others. My father, before he passed away, he used to always tell me there's 2 H's in life, health and happiness. Another way I sometimes frame my mission or our mission on our companies is, to make people healthier and happier.
Is that how you got such a peaceful mind and a positive disposition?
It's one of the ways. I believe, it's a 2-pronged approach. I think we need a compelling vision of the future for sure. So your mission is that. Some sort of picture you have in the future that excites you. This is really important for human beings, I believe. And if you've read, I don't know, probably some of you guys have Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. He's pretty clear about that the people in the concentration camps that did not survive, and those that survived, they all had that. And so we have the compelling vision of the future, but I think this is only half of the equation. The other half is an ability to be deeply present, and it's beautiful how we started today. And so the combination of those two, I think, makes peace. And, I'm far from perfect. I had some non-peaceful moments this morning, but that's what I strive for.
What was your experience this morning?
I had my house checked for mold in August. And then I forgot about it. So I never got the results, and they forgot to send them to me. And then there's mold there. And I was like, I've been in mold the last 4 months. I started spiraling out of my head. It's just funny you mentioned Everest, because I remind myself, dude, you summited Mount Everest. You'll get over the mold, And so you heard that saying, don't major in minor things. It's a minor thing. I'll take care of it. I'll get checked out. I'll get it taken care of. But I was spinning out a little bit. My mind loves to spin out.
You leave Charlie at home.
Yeah, that's right. Charlie is the name I give to my voice in my head that won't stop talking sometimes. But
There really is a humanitarian kind of a kindness about you. And, I'm just curious because I try to live that way. Most people I try to help, I fail. But I just wondered if you had any suggestions as to how we might go about moving the rest of our society, or a lot of them, to that frequency, to where you...
it's very difficult to distinguish people who are open to hearing an answer, asking for an answer, and those who are not. And I think all of us as humans know the difference between being tired and uninspired and being ready to make a change. And so for me, first of all, you have to live it. I have to live it and just try to be the example. Sometimes I make change in others just from living my life. And sometimes others change me just by living theirs without telling me. So that's number one. And for me, maybe I can't dance around it anymore. It's really spirit-based and faith-based. Like you said, sometimes you try to do the right thing, you make it worse or whatnot. So how do you make these decisions? I go with my heart and faith. Am I doing the right thing in the business or the song? I go within, and it either feels right or it doesn't. And I'm either winning or I'm learning.
You're a great inspiration to both young and old. But besides your father, who were your other biggest inspirations?
I have so many. I have so many.
We've got an hour. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I feel inspiration is, it's really priceless, and it's fickle. It can't always be relied upon as a creator, someone who writes songs, right? It can come and it's not always there. Sometimes you got to show up and do your job when it's not there. But people that inspired me, musically, I was inspired a lot by first hip hop artists I listened to when I was a kid, like Nas and Andre 3000. I'm inspired by Paul Simon, inspired by Dvorak, inspired by Bob Marley. I'm inspired by my friends that make music. Outside of music, I'm inspired by figures like Ram Dass, figures like Alan Watts. I read holy books too sometimes. So I'm inspired by Jesus, Krishna, and these like magical stories that withhold, mass amounts of wisdom inside them. Inspire me. What inspires you?
I just enjoy making people laugh. Makes me feel like I'm worthy of something. It's worthwhile for me to be here on this earth. Even if I feel like that's my assignment, is make people laugh, make people enjoy life at any age.
For most people, inspiration is not underscored, but with you, it seems to be underscored. When you get inspired, you do monumental things. Good Lord.
Getting out of bed in the morning either,
Look, but I want to be really honest about all this stuff, because it's true. I've done some things that are big by my own standards, from my like it's all relative, right? There's people that I know, because you get into the climbing community, okay, I'm like the worst guy in that community, but for me, I have done some big things they're big to me. But this came from a lot of pain. This comes from sitting and looking in the mirror and going, gosh, I thought there would be more. And depression and darkness. And it's like, okay, how can I set my life up to where it's inspiring to me, not to anyone else, to me? And I teach the stuff I need to learn. That's it. I don't want to, put on any airs like I don't know pain. I have a mass amount of pain in my life for whatever. I don't know if that's part of my DNA or what, but a lot of the breakthroughs are my biggest moments when I look back at them, from Everest to the climb, to even writing my most popular song, I Took a Pill in Ibiza. These were all breakthroughs that came off the back of a mass amount of pain. Mm-hmm. All of them.
I Took a Pill in Ibiza.
Yeah?
I do. I absolutely love it.
What do you love about it?
it's just so mellow. And I've never done psychedelics, so I can't say I.
Someone here has, yeah?
I have.
That guy down there with the hat on.
Oh, shocker, right? Who would have guessed? Out of the bunch.
From San Francisco.
Okay.
But I feel like that's a type of song that if I were going to do psychedelics, that would be playing in the background of my mind. So I'd like to know from you, what was going on in there?
Wow. Well, that's a huge compliment, first of all, that would make your consciousness altering soundtrack if you were to take it. What was going through my mind when I wrote it? I was in the studio with a friend of mine named Jake Owen. He's a wonderful country artist. And we were doing what we call passing the guitar. So I would play a song on the guitar and pass it to him. And then he would play a song on the guitar and pass it back. So I played one, and then he said, Mike, what's that song about? This is not Ibiza, just some other song. I said, it's about a woman I had a relationship with in Ohio, and then I had another relationship with a different woman in New York, and I sort of mashed their stories together. And then there was some other parts I just made up. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, well, why don't you just tell the truth? And it was so interesting because I didn't avoid the truth out of embarrassment or guilt or shame. I avoided the truth often because it was boring to me. My truth had already been lived by me. So like talking about it seemed like watching the movie for the second time. But to everyone else, they hadn't seen that movie yet. So I left the studio that night and I was on the plane, and that song just started to come out. I said, do what he said, just tell the truth. And that was my truth at that moment. I was 26 years old. I had attained a mass amount of success when I was maybe 23 or 24. And then it had really ended. And I was just ice cold, and people called me a one-hit wonder. And so I just kind of stepped back and looked at my life, and I thought, maybe this story is kind of interesting to tell. If you listen to pop music, most of it's about the ascent. And then you don't hear so much like in the actual, you get documentaries and stuff, but you don't hear so much actual songs about the descent. So that was a song about a descent in my life. There's been more.
So was it a downer trip that you went on, or a happy one? And what was the pill?
Yeah.
That's what she really wants to know.
Yeah. I got you. So, yeah, it's interesting. When I actually wrote the song, it was about a year or two after that night that I'm talking about. So sometimes I need time. I'm a little slow. So I need time to contextualize events. Like, I'm just thinking about starting to write a book about my walk across America. And that was 5 years ago. So that night, it was during this time where I was really cold. My career is basically, I went from making all this money and I was going around the world and I was taking my shirt off at the concerts and everybody loved me. And then it just sort of like stopped. It really slowed down. I just found myself home with like an empty schedule. And I had made a little money, but I didn't know what to do. And my friend, his name was Avicii. He passed away since. But he was a very famous DJ, and he was working on a new album. And he said, why don't you come to Sweden to do some writing for my new album? So I was like, I don't really have anything else going on.
Okay.
So I'll be there, And I had 2 or 3 days with them, but I'm flying all the way to Sweden. So I was like, maybe I'll stay a little longer. It'd be crazy to kind of go there and come right back. And I knew he had a concert coming up in Ibiza. So in the studio, I said, hey, Tim, that was his real name. Tim, can I go to your concert that you have in Ibiza in a few days? And he said, sure. So he just gave me tickets, but he didn't give me like a hotel room or anything like that, And because it was his show, they were staying in like the Big Baller Hotel, I don't know, like his rooms cost like $1,000 or something, And I didn't really have it like that at that time. So I was staying like a different place. I went a day early. And have any of you been to Ibiza? no. Ibiza is sort of like, in some ways, like there's a beautiful part of the culture, but like it's also like a party destination. So it's a little bit like Vegas.
My daughter went to school in Spain for a semester, and they went to Ibiza a lot.
I bet. Yeah, college kids don't
Right.
mind being there. And so I'm here and this like, and everyone is there with their friends, like having all this fun. And I was just there alone. And I felt like the most desolate guy on the planet.
Wow.
And Tim came the next day at a show, and he's playing the concert, and I'm in the audience looking at him, and I'm just thinking, that used to be me. And this was when I still drank, so I was drinking, and he had set me up in a little VIP area. I left the VIP area to go into the rest of the crowd, and really what I was hoping someone was going to recognize me. And it's so sad because I didn't want to feel as alone as I felt. And I was just hoping someone's going to see me. Someone did. Sketchy looking plastic bag full of pills. And they said, "Are you Posner?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You want one of these?" And I was just already inebriated. I mean, this is not what you should do, you know. I was already drunk, and I said yes. And I took the pill, and the song says it's like I took a pill in Ibiza to show Avicii I was cool, and when I finally got sober, felt 10 years older. But fuck it, it was something to do. And then the chorus, all I know are sad songs. That is a very sad moment. It's a very painful moment. And when you just zoom in on that moment, you just feel sadness or contemplate sadness. But when I zoom out a little more, I see that painful moment allowed me to make something beautiful. There's a lot of things we can do with our pain. And one of the ways I'm blessed to be able to transmute my pain is to make art. And so I took something painful and I made something beautiful. And now I'm sitting here with you and you're telling me you love this song. And I've just, I've sung this song over the world and I've seen people's faces light up. And some of them have a direct relation to that pain where they weren't hanging out with Avicii, but they know that feeling of not being seen. And the other people just like the way it sounds. And it doesn't matter, but it's either making people feel less alone or giving them a soundtrack for joy. And as an artist, to turn suffering into joy, into beauty, this is like all we can ask for. And so I'm just blessed. And, there's a lot of grace, I think, that went with that whole unfolding of that experience into that song, into this moment.
It's funny that you should bring that situation up because I went to a comedy show a couple of nights ago, and I went with a friend, but a friend who does not think being a TikTok star is being anything.
Yeah.
And so we went to this thing, and I walked in, and I thought, I hope somebody recognizes me.
Wow.
And we go in, we got there a little late, we got sat up in the front, where if it's a comedy show, you're going to get heckled. You're in the, in the front.
I'm so scared of that always.
Well, I figured...
I'm like, put me in the back.
Well,
I don't have the wit.
Oh, I have the comebacks. I like the comebacks.
She's ready with those.
I don't. Go ahead.
But so I was sitting there, and the show hadn't started yet. And I was sitting there looking at the menu or something, and my friend that I came with said, "One of your fans is over here." Mm-hmm. And I looked, and she said, "Oh, it is you." So I can understand that loneliness the minute before. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of picks you up.
It can.
Yeah.
It definitely can. And Yeah, I've had many of those moments from having a bad day, and sometimes we don't think about that when we're creators, right? You guys create this for people. I create my music, right? So we're creators, and we're very preoccupied with from us out to the audience. But sometimes, hey, you're having a bad day or you're feeling, and they give it back to you.
This
And-
woman talked about how much she enjoyed our show. I meant to tell all of y'all. It made me feel great. It made me, like Chuck says, that I am having a purpose in this, and that I do make people laugh. And she said, "Oh, we bragged up our day. Every time we look the night before and we see what TikToks you did, and then we talk about it."
Yeah.
And it was like, wow.
Yeah.
So it restores your faith in yourself.
That's so beautiful. So her reflection to you made you feel like you really were making a difference.
Now, I don't want to jump the gun, but I want to get to this walking across America.
Let's go. Let's go.
Lord, I mean, how does one do that? How does one make up one's mind to even attempt that?
Yeah, same story, man. It was feeling a lot of pain. It was just, I was in West Hollywood. I had this just burning feeling inside me like, there's gotta be more. There's more inside me. Like, this can't be it. I had this dream for a long time. I'd heard about it like 5 years before. And I had kept putting off this dream. My father died. A year after that, roughly, Avicii, who we just talked about, Tim, he died as well. And shortly thereafter, a peer of mine who wasn't really a friend, but a contemporary that I knew and sometimes do shows together, a fellow artist, his name was Mac Miller, he died. And I just thought, gosh, one day I'm going to die too. I hope not super soon, but one day I'm either going to go on this journey and have that be a part of my life or not. And it was really a crossroads moment for me because I was either going to continue on the path of what was expected of me, which was to make album, go on tour, make another album, go on another tour, make another album, go on another tour. Or I was going to take a step of faith off of this path into the unknown and live what felt like my path, my journey, my life. And nobody told me it was a good idea. People told me it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'll bet.
No affirmation really other than internally. I knew like this is the moment. Like I'm either gonna live someone else's life or live my life. Simple as that. And I talked to a friend and he said, not all crazy ideas are great, but all great ideas are crazy. And so I said, I'm gonna do it.
Was this before Mount Everest or was it?
Yeah, this was right before. In fact, I never would have dreamed to do Everest having not done it first. You know, the walk was so hard and it hurt.
Did you sleep on the ground? Did you sleep in beds?
So often,
Where did you stay?
sometimes I slept on the ground. We had tents. And then most of the walk, I had a support vehicle, meaning my friend would go ahead of me and we had an RV that has some beds in it. So he would go ahead of me and I'd catch up and that night sleep there. Now, when we got to the really good parts of America, like the Rocky Mountains or the Mojave Desert, these really beautiful parts, then there were places that were too rugged for that vehicle to go. So in those places, we'd sleep in a tent.
And what about food? What kind of weight did you have to carry on the walk?
Not much because of the support vehicle. So my buddy it was actually two guys, Colin McAndrews and Julian Roy, and they took turns. So it'd be one person with me for like a month, and then they'd get sick of me and they'd go home, and then the other one would come. And so they would get all our food and find places where we were allowed to sleep. They called a police department every time I crossed the county line to let them know, like, say it's a dude with a big long beard gonna be walking on the road, you know, and we kind of figure that technique out because we realized if we didn't call the cops first, people were gonna call them.
Call right on, yeah.
So now, how long did it take?
It took 6 months and 3 days.
Wow, 6 months.
Yeah. 2,851 miles.
What was your most memorable experience on the trip?
The one that's the most notable that I'm asked about the most is I got bit by a rattlesnake. I was about 2/3 of the way through the walk, and I felt this pain shoot up my left leg. And I was like, gosh, what the heck was that? And as soon as I had that thought, what the heck was that? I heard a sound that I didn't want to hear.
The rattle? Or?
And that was, yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
So I'm like, oh man, I knew what the sound was because
Yeah.
I'd heard him before already on the. I'm like, well, we called 911. I'm in like the middle of nowhere.
yeah.
I'm on Colorado 10. So we can look it up on Google Maps. I'm on Colorado 10 between La Junta and Walsenburg. La Junta's behind me. And so I'm like really in the middle of nowhere. And so the thing with the rattlesnake bites is like, if you get to the hospital and you get to antivenin, you'll be okay. But the longer you're without it, the worse, the more, eventually you die. But then
You can have paralysis.
you have
and other
paralysis, you can
things.
lose your foot, all this bad stuff. So
Did you have access to your support vehicle?
yeah, he was with me. Colin was there. And so we called 911. The dispatch said, I sent 2 ambulances from 2 different directions and a chopper. And whatever gets there first, get in.
Yeah.
And I said, am I going to die? And she said, I don't know, sir. Strangely, I had one other kind of close call that wasn't like this. It was actually like just really scary. But this was very peaceful. I realized, hey, this is serious. Sometimes my awareness would fade away and I'd wake up. And so I thought, this could be the last few hours of my life. Hopefully not, but it could be. And if it is, I don't want to waste the last 2 hours of my life worrying about if it's the last 2 hours of my life. So I'm just going to enjoy being alive in this form. And as soon as I made that decision, all the colors on the ambulance door got brighter. And I'm thinking, wow, red. Maybe it's the last time I see red. And it was just very peaceful.
How long did it take for the ambulance to reach you? And was the ambulance first or the helicopter?
Ambulance got there first. Took me back to La Junta. I think when I got to the hospital, it was about 1:40 to when I got the medicine. They gave me all the medicine, and then they ran out of the antivenom. So they said, we got to get you to a bigger hospital.
Oh my
so
God.
then I got to ride in the chopper.
Oh my God.
And so thank God my insurance covered all that stuff. Man.
Yeah.
They didn't do it the old school way.
Well,
like you
never
see in
mind the
Westerns,
money.
where they make a little cut and suck out the venom.
Yeah, right.
No.
I was just getting ready
Thank
to
God.
ask that.
Yeah,
There
don't
were
do that.
cars and helicopters.
Yeah, they really don't know. This is like a very in the weeds detail, but as far as sucking the venom out or leaving it in, they don't know if that actually works or not because they can't really test it. Like you can't just get a bunch of people bitten by poisonous snakes and see what happens. So the only thing they really know for sure is that the antivenin works, and so it's just get that. But the best part of that story is I went home. I was on crutches. I had a walker. And eventually, after 3 weeks, this funny thing happened, and I healed.
Yes.
So now I'm sitting in air conditioning, and
Do I really want to go back?
Finish my walk.
And I'll tell you what complicated it was not only the physical comforts, but the psychological comforts
Of
I was
course.
getting. Meaning, I was getting a lot of attention and love for being hurt.
Right.
So there's a part of my brain that goes, oh, just stay hurt. You'll keep getting more love. Right? And that's the victim's mentality, right?
Yeah.
So, people do this all the time. And sometimes people's lives get dominated by that little tweak. And it was uncomfortable because when I say I'm getting attention, I'm getting attention from my family, my friends, but also my heroes are all reaching out to me. Hey, bro, feel better, all this stuff, and and they're putting me on the news, and I'm getting more famous from being hurt.
Sure.
And then I was just like, hey, man, you're better. You're better. So you're either gonna go back to your life of
Walking across America.
or the life of pain that I left.
Yeah.
It was another crossroads moment where I knew if I quit, it was such a good reason to quit. It was such a good reason that most people probably wouldn't even consider it quitting, right?
Right.
But I wasn't doing it for most people. I knew in order for me to become the version of myself I wanted to be, I had 1,000 more miles to walk. So I went back to that place, that exact spot that snake put its little fangs in my leg, and I just took a step, and I kept taking steps until I walked across 3-4 more states, across the Mojave Desert, across Los Angeles, where we are today. And on October 18th, 2019, after 6 months, 3 days, 2,851 miles, I dove in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Did you ever see Forrest Gump?
It was Forrest Gump. Oh, yeah. So, coincidentally, I did run into Tom Hanks right before we started
Oh my God.
at a party. And I told him what I was about to do. And like, I didn't want to say, I just said, I'm going to walk across there. And he goes, that's wonderful. I didn't push, but it's kind of, reminiscent of a role you once played. I kind of just left it, and he was like, that's nice. He wanted to end the conversation.
Yeah. Again, share no secrets, man.
Yeah, right.
Did you wear out any shoes or the same shoes?
6.5 pairs.
Wow.
Yeah, 6.5 pairs.
Oh, man.
And what kind of shoes did you possibly buy to walk that far?
Nah, dog,
no,
that's
no.
a pass for me. No, I wore Solomon, actually. They're kind of like, almost like boots, because they're waterproof. And I thought, I'll just wear these on like really rainy days. And then I liked them more than the tennis shoes I was wearing. So that's what I wore every day.
Did the snake bite you when you were wearing boots?
Yeah, but they were about the like level of this shoe.
Sure.
So it got me like right here. I have a little scar. Could show my friends over here. Yeah, that one. But this thing healed up pretty good, man.
Yeah,
This leg is
Just
not
a little
bad.
reminder of your trip. And
A-okay.
yes.
And how receptive were the police when you called them?
When we called them first, they were cool. But when they were called on me, they were a little more like just skeptical. These are roads, you gotta understand, these are roads that I would get onto that forget about what no one walk on, no one drives on them. It's like one house. And they know every car in that county pretty much, And so one day when like a RV shows up and a guy, I have like a vest on, to reflective vest and a long beard, and they're like, what's going on? This is weird. So I get why they might be freaked out.
He's not from here.
Yeah.
You ain't from these parts, boy.
But I want to really like contextualize that, because when that happened, I would talk to the police and it was always fine. But mostly my journey was marked by just unfathomable acts of kindness.
Wow.
I wish that anyone the least bit cynical or misanthropic could walk across America, because I would be walking and people would pull up beside me that didn't know who I was and just offer me a ride. I was a stranger. I looked dirty. I was dirty. They'd say, "Do you want a ride?" Or I remember I was in Ohio and this gentleman came up and he's talking to us and we told him what we're up to, and he came back a couple minutes later and he said, I've spoken to my wife and we'd really like to have you over for dinner, and if you want to stay the night in our home, you're welcome to.
Did you go for dinner?
We did. We didn't stay the night, but we went for dinner, and I just thought to myself, like, I think of myself as a nice person. You guys told me I was so nice when I came here today. I appreciate. But I have never gone to a park, met a guy with a long beard
And dirty.
and said, "Hey, you know what? Stay the night."
And here's my daughter.
I never did that.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff people did towards me all the time. And they didn't know who I was. They didn't know. And sometimes I would be walking and people would just pull over and they'd have a bag of Gatorade or something. They say, "Oh, I saw you out here. I bought this for you. Here it is." And they just leave. And this really climaxed when I got to the Navajo Nation.
Oh my God.
The Navajo Nation was some place that white people warned me about. They said, "Be careful when you go there. Strange things happen there, all this kind of stuff." And it just couldn't have been more the opposite.
Right.
All day long, people just walk on the side of this highway and they're just stopping all day long to give me love. And they say, "Hey, we heard you're coming here, and is it okay if we pray for you in our language?" I said, "Yeah." This probably happened 20 times this first day I'm there. And it culminated with the man gave me a eagle feather. This is like the Medal of Honor, like something I didn't deserve at all. And he gave me this eagle feather, and I thought, like, man, to be in a place where, look, like I'm a white guy, right? I'm a white guy. I'm walking on their land,
Indian
Sacred
land, yeah.
sacred land, and usually when in the history when white people have come on their land, like white people haven't always been up to the best stuff, right? And so for them to just greet me with so much love and kindness, and I remember the EMS truck stopped and they gave me a patch, that like Navajo Nation EMS, and like it was just, I couldn't explain the love. It really touched me.
You saw the good part of America.
Absolutely. And for me, I lived my entire life either in a city or the suburb of a city. Try an urban life. And the walk across America, you find out pretty quickly, cities, while they have a lot of people in them, are very small, mileage-wise. So I walked across LA in one day. I walked across Pittsburgh in one day. I walked across Indianapolis one day. So that's 3 days a city. St. Louis, also suburbs. 4 days a city. The walk's like 187 days. So 183 days is like not in a city. And so I learned a lot.
Wow.
I learned a lot. But I finished the walk. I didn't go home. I started climbing.
Really? All
Yeah.
in one?
It was one thing. I was still on my journey of becoming the version of myself I would actually be proud of. Understanding if, that feeling of, before I left for the walk, of, gosh, I think there's more. Well, I finished the walk. I'm like, there's definitely more. And I ain't at the end of it, So I started climbing. And over the next year and a half, I climbed full time. I climbed 71 mountains.
Whoa.
71?
Yeah, 71.
I have trouble getting up a hill.
That's
Yeah.
almost your age.
And I did too at first. And I went from just not belonging on a mountain at all to becoming a competent mountaineer. And I had a coach, a wonderful man, who's like a brother now. I said, "Look, I have this dream of climbing Everest, but it's not just climbing Everest." I said, I don't want to go there unless I belong there. And so when I got there, I belonged there. As hard as the walk was, it was 10 times harder. There's people going up and not coming down. There's horrible scare with the avalanche where I didn't think I was going to die. I knew I was going to die. You're at Camp 2 and this avalanche rips open the tent, and I'm like, there's no getting rescued up here. Like, this is it. This is done.
Is it.
And it wasn't peaceful like the snake bite. It was terrifying. I was always honest about my motivations for both the walk and the climb. As long as you asked me, it was, I wanted to break through the pain. I wanted to discover if there was more. I wanted to become a version of myself I was proud of. There was also I want people to see I'm special. Let's call it ego mixed in. I wanted to be the guy that climbed Mount Everest. And then when I was on the actual mountain, I had said I was going to do it. My integrity. As I got further up the mountain, my reasons started to
Crumble.
Crumble. Like, okay, I wanna see if there's more inside myself. Well, that's a good thing. But it's not a good thing to die for. It's a very selfish thing to die for, actually. Like self-exploration. So that's gone. I'm thinking like become a better version of myself. Like, again, it's a good thing, but to the extreme, bad thing to die for. You know, like I could think of things that are valid to die for. They all involve other people. Then I got my ego. I mean, we already know that. I knew that was a bad reason before I left. It was a reason, but I knew it was a bad reason. Once I got Camp 2, my body's falling apart. People are dying. The only thing I had left was the integrity. My word. I said I was going to do it. And I'm going to do it. And it was, talk about psychedelic, man. I went to Camp 4. You have a few hours to rest before you go for the summit. Mount Everest is climbed over days. You go from base camp, and base camp is high. There's no oxygen, so you're falling apart. From base camp to Camp 1, that's a day. To Camp 2, that's a day. Maybe you rest there, but it's not real rest because there's no air. You go to Camp 3, you go to Camp 4, that's a 10-hour day, and then you got a few hours, and then in the middle of the night, before not even the 8 p.m., you're going to go for the summit. Now you're halfway. Then you got to come back down to 2, and then hopefully get off the mountain. So I'm at 4. I'm about to go for the summit. I got this few hours. I close my eyes, and I just start to see like lattice work and geometric visuals, and this feeling of peace washed over me. Like I was so worked up about making it and doing it, and I just thought, there was a knowing. It's like it's psychedelic. I must, maybe there's just no air. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was a knowing that came over me that said, "You're gonna do this, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be the most important thing in your life, but you're going to do it. So just go have fun." And we went out there that night, and I had really been crumbling the days before. I wasn't moving well, but that summit day, it was like I was playing a game under the Friday night lights, except instead of the Friday night lights, it was the stars, and I was the closest person to the stars in the world that day. And we hit it just perfect. So, people talk about the lines on Everest, but that day we were first. So there was no one in front of us, and me and my brother Dawa, rest in peace. He later died on another mountain. My brother Dawa Dorje and Dr. John, we got up there, and I just cried. And the thing I always tell people is people don't realize mountains have shadows. And if you're there on the sunrise, you get blessed, and you're able to see Mount Everest's shadow. And it's not a small shadow.
No.
It's hundreds and hundreds of miles.
Wow.
This beautiful pyramid. And I'll never forget it. And people would say, what was the weather like? Was it cloudy? I say, yeah, down there.
Yeah.
Like, we're way above the clouds, man. Like the clouds were, it's a cloudy day for the people on Earth, But we were on Earth, but it felt like we weren't. More importantly, I got back down, safe, on my fingers and toes. And the question I would ask for you is, you ever have an experience, and anyone could answer, but that experience for me was so visceral, and in some ways so traumatic, because death was so close, and stepping over dead bodies of people that were climbers just like me a week ago. And after it, I find that even telling it now, no one gets it except for the guys I was with. They get it. And one of them died, and it really messed with me. And I think the reason it messed with me was because I felt just like more alone in this experience that other people didn't understand. I'm just one of the 3 guys that got it was now gone. And I'm wondering if you ever had an experience, I mean, I'm sure you all have, but you ever had an experience that was so kind of like scary and dark, but also beautiful at the same time. And you know, you're not going to have another experience like that. I mean, unless I chose to go back, but I don't choose to go back because of what I discussed earlier. Like
Why would you?
yeah. And so I'm not going back. And because I know I'm not going back, I know that I hope I never ever experience like that again.
Well, I've had some experiences similar, but they weren't 28,000 feet above the earth.
But tell me
whatever
about
it is.
yours.
No, I mean, mine are so, they're mundane. They're like average people's things, like,
There's nothing average about you, Jerry.
That's right. Thank you.
There's nothing average about you.
I had an experience kind of similar, I guess. Not when I had the brain surgery, but when I had the dissection. And, death. Boy, I was gone for 4 days. I didn't know. I don't remember anything about those days. And I remember when I came out of that coma-like experience, flashed before me was all of the faces that I'd known in my life. But only one voice, and it was the voice of one of your singer, like Michael McDonald's mother, her voice. And she was a little baby chick. It wasn't her face. It was a chicken. A little chick spoke in Mary's voice. Hi, dear. And it was like a voice spoke to me also in that moment. And it had a calming effect on me. I was not afraid. And I remember praying, if I go, it's okay, God. Like giving God the okay that it was to take me. And it was like, no. He didn't say, like people typically say, you got work to do. It was like, you ain't going nowhere. I mean, those moments they're inexplicable. It's hard words are so limiting. What I experienced in those moments, I wish I could articulate clearly so that a child could understand it. But it's difficult. But it was one I'll never forget. I hear you saying the same thing or similar. That's the way it resonates with me when you say what you're saying about up on that mountain, stepping over those bodies and all of that.
We know so little. We just don't know anything at all. And most of us play out our lives on this teeny weeny itty bitty TV set called Our Town or Our House, or we made up all these words. We made up sun, we made up moon, we made up ocean. I called the ocean my big fat girlfriend so that I will remember that I don't know one thing about the mystery and the depth and the beauty of the ocean.
I was a little curious. He said 28,000 feet. I thought Everest was higher than that. How high?
It's 29,
Oh,
35, I think. 28,000, 35.
And you said, okay, you're above the clouds. Were you above the clouds when you were in base camp, or do you have to go up a couple camps to be above the clouds?
Well, the clouds move day to day.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta be higher. It's interesting. You'll get 4 different weather reports for each altitude.
Oh,
So it could be storming one place, and then if you're high above it, it's clear.
When are you going, Chuck?
Yeah, come on,
I
Chuck.
was going to
Let's
go tomorrow, but I got to go do a rehearsal, so I can't make it.
I was above the clouds, and even on Mount Holly in Maui. What's the name of it?
Haleakala.
Haleakala, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the clouds come down low sometimes. Sometimes they're high.
So was it? It was after After the climb that you went on your retreat.
I've been on several retreats,
Right.
and the one you're referring to, I often go to this place in Colorado, and it's a Buddhist retreat center, and they offer a unique experience, which is a solitary retreat. So basically, there's a little cabin there, up in the little foothills of the Rockies, very secluded, and there's no running water. There's water like catchment, and they have a pump, and there's no electricity, and there's obviously no cell service. And once a week, there's a bear-proof box down the road, and they drop your food there. You don't see anybody. You go there, you pick it up, and they just leave you there. They just leave you there. And you make your own schedule, which for me was, wake up at 6, you do sitting meditation. That's from 7 to 9, and eat breakfast, and then walking meditation, and sitting meditation again, and eat lunch, and do walking meditation, do another couple hours of sitting meditation, eat dinner, and go for another walking meditation, read some holy books, go to bed, and do it again. And it's a really deep experience. It's very much a feeling of waking up when I go there. Very much. You just see how, you see how powerful our consciousness is. Your mind gets sharper. Your senses are all heightened. You start to hear the subtleties of a bird's call, the beginnings and the ends of the call that just were inaudible to you at the beginning of the retreat.
So you're there for how long?
That time I was there 21 days.
So what was it like to come back to civilization? I mean, did you wean yourself in? Because all of a sudden everybody's talking 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
It's loud.
Whoa.
Your own voice is loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little choppy, actually. I'm not sure I did it. Maybe I could have eased in a little bit,
yeah,
a little more
yeah,
softer. But
It's deafening silence, huh?
yeah,
Did you talk to yourself out loud?
not much. Sometimes I would
It was just in your mind.
yeah, but really I'm focusing on letting go of that voice in the mind. That's the practice. Is okay, that thing's talking all the time, but that's actually not me. It's like we live our whole lives like the voice in our head is us. If you really stop and listen to that thing, which is one form of meditation, just listen to it. Well, what you'll find is, one, most of the things it says are either incredibly repetitive. Like I sit there on the meditation and it's saying the same, it keeps saying the same thing. Like, remember the time that your sister said that thing to you in Detroit? And you're sitting there going, then a minute later, remember that time your sister said that thing to you in Detroit? It's just really repetitive. Or there's a lot of negative things that the mind says. Plays out doomsday scenarios. Hey, you got to be careful of this, because if that happens, then that will happen. And if that happens, then this will happen. And if that happens, then that happens, and you'll be dead. And it's like, it's just absurd when you really listen to it, how it's just ridiculous. It's nonsensical. And so we live in a society that worships the rational mind. We hold this up as like the end all and the be all of what the human experience is. And I think we as humans are much more than the little voice in our head. Our spirits are infinite, unbounded. And a lot of that is just like, it's a scanning device to keep you alive. It's a survival thing, like look out for danger. So it's there to be neurotic and like go, is that a threat? Is that a threat? Is that a threat? And it's just such a small part of who we are. And so that's one of the things I walk away with.
Amen.
And a lot of those thoughts, like a lot of them are just horrible thoughts. I'm like, those aren't my thoughts. Their thoughts. They're not my thoughts. I don't agree with them.
A few years ago, I put together the mantra to say, whenever one of those thoughts, I'll start walking down the street. Well, watch out. Here comes an interception. You could get hit by a car, blah, blah, blah. I now just very gently say, wounded baby. And the moment I say that, it just quietens down. It's fine. It knows I've heard it. and it knows that it's just coming from the fact that there was enough wounds along the way to develop that voice. But it's okay. I don't have to listen to it anymore. I know it's just coming from the wounded baby.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you're not trying to make it disappear. You're just giving it awareness, attention, and love.
That's all.
And
Thanking it.
Thanking it
Yeah.
and letting it know, like I got you and I'm in control and I'll take it from here.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This is a beautiful reframe. Yeah.
I do it a little different.
Tell us.
I tell them, get behind me, Satan. Because most of the stuff that's coming like that is negative,
Yeah.
and negativity doesn't come from my God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So get behind me. And I'll talk to him like, hey, back up, back up, back up. Just like I talk to a person. And oftentimes, he'll back right up. Sometimes he's a little more confounded and a scoundrel, and he'll keep going. Say, back up. Speak. Yeah, that's the way I do it.
It's beautiful. And I think the language, like we said, we don't know their words. So we're using different words, the voice, Charlie, Satan. We're talking about the same thing though. It's a thing that's not serving us. And we don't have to give it power over our lives.
No power.
Well, I think there's also power up there because I don't have a spokesman. I have a committee. And I mean because truth is up there too, and if you let it, it comes through. If you don't buy into one of those other voices, if you let them speak, and it comes through to me. It takes a while, but especially being an actor. For 30 years, I've been living other people and putting those other people up there and letting them get around. And the nervous parts of being an actor, when you're about to be on or something like that, when you really have to call on it to be there and you have to be that person, not all these other people, like especially yourself, that's when they can be most active. But that's when you have to know to let go. And there's that truth in there, that the person you need to be, the character, that person you've been training to be. And if you get out of your own way, it'll come through. But that can sometimes be a hell of a fight, but it's there. And that's part of the training, is to trust that it can come through. Truth is there, and if you let it, it'll reveal itself. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.